5 misconceptions about public-private partnerships in infrastructure. Number 1. PPPs are at no cost to government. PPPs pertain to different ways wherein the private sector can participate in building much-needed public infrastructure, like roads, rail, water systems, airports, ports, even schools and hospitals. The most common approach for a PPP is called a Build, Operate, Transfer project. The rules in the Philippines for BOTs are provided for by the BOT Law or Republic Act 6957 as amended by Republic Act 7718. A typical BOT project would have the government as principal, granting a concession agreement to the concessionaire, which is typically a consortium of private companies. The concessionaire will develop, finance, construct, and operate the infrastructure project. In exchange, the concessionaire can collect fees either from the end user or from government. Government may not have to foot the bill for the entire infrastructure upfront, but government will still have very important responsibilities in implementing a PPP. Government needs good technical skills to write and negotiate a contract, as well as to design and conduct a procurement process for the project partner. Once a partner is selected and a contract written, government also needs to ensure a robust regulatory capability to monitor and evaluate the concessionaire's adherence to service standards. Sometimes, depending on the design of the project agreement, government will also have to make periodic payments to the project partner. In the event that government fails to deliver on its contractual obligations, government will have to absorb the contingent liability. So even if a PPP arrangement can help fill in the gaps in fiscal and state capacity, there are still very important roles that the government needs to fulfill for the project to be a success. No upfront payment does not mean zero government responsibility. Number 2. PPPs are more expensive. Because PPPs are carried out by private companies, critics argue that PPPs will end up becoming more expensive because companies will require a profit on top of service delivery, and because companies will also have to borrow money at higher cost than government. Although these are both valid arguments, private companies, through greater efficiency and innovation, can also bring down construction, operating, and maintenance costs. In the end, throughout its lifetime, overall project cost to the government and the taxpayers might even be lower. In short, adding a profit motivation to ensure service delivery might actually make the projects cheaper. Number 3. PPPs are slower. PPP contracts are definitely much more complicated than straight-out procurement because oftentimes they not only describe the physical features of the desired infrastructure, but they also describe service level standards. For example, if government were simply to bid out a contract to construct a road, it only needs to identify the technical features of the road that it wants a construction company to build. But if it were to bid out a concession agreement for a toll road, then it would have to forecast the projected demand for the road and identify the service level agreements it would require the toll operator to meet throughout the duration of the agreement. So definitely procurement processes and contract writing for PPPs would take more time. But if done well, by outsourcing the entire construction process to the private partner, and by providing them an incentive to collect fees the sooner they finish the construction, project completion might actually be quicker. Number 4. unsolicited projects are faster. As the term implies, solicited projects are projects that the government receives after initiating a competitive selection process. On the other hand, unsolicited projects are submitted by private sector proponents without any request from government. Some claim that unsolicited projects are faster because they do not require the preparatory work involved in initiating a competitive selection process, such as conducting a feasibility study, demand forecasting, contract drafting, and financial risk analysis and allocation. However, accepting an unsolicited project without subjecting the assumptions and proposals of the proponent to a rigorous review would be reckless and would fail to ensure that the proposal is in the best interest of the public. On the contrary, because unsolicited projects have not been previously evaluated by government, if done properly, they might actually take longer than solicited projects. Rushing into accepting and awarding unsolicited projects also increases the likelihood that the project will get entangled in future litigation, or worse, that it will end up in default due to problematic assumptions and forecasts. Innovative technology, rather than speed, should be the main motivation to accept an unsolicited proposal. Number 5. PPP is always the solution. PPP arrangements work best for projects that have defined costs that can be recovered by predictable future demand and revenues. These are critical elements to attract interest from private companies in order to build the desired infrastructure. If there is too much uncertainty surrounding these parameters of the project, any credible company would probably find the project too risky and stay away. In these cases, using the traditional mode of procurement would probably be a better fit to pursue the project. Next time you hear someone argue for or against public-private partnerships in infrastructure, make sure they are not making conclusions based on faulty misconceptions.